Go f yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
Riots at the NYC Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting. Kamala Harris, wizard of words, take to the stage. The same stage, interestingly enough, that Elon was on, where he tells it off to advertisers. Trump, in the fraud case, dropped a big bomb there. Not Trump himself, but one of the banks. And also, Henry Kissinger died. TikTok. Holy cow, so much to get to. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker that is completely and totally and utterly cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. On today, it is Thursday, November, what is it, 30th? Holy cow. How did November just went by? Like, it felt like it was October, and now it's December. But anyways, November 30th, the year of our Lord, 2023. Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily Caller Live. Got a bunch of stuff to catch you up on. I feel like this is, I'm going to start here. I think this is one of the funnier and also, again, funny and horrifying, because everything is both these days. Everything is both funny and horrifying at the same time. Donald Trump is facing fraud charges in the state of New York. Fraudulent fraud charges, if you will. But nevertheless, Donald Trump is being sued by Letitia James, the attorney general over there in the great state of New York, who ran on getting Trump and is now literally going after him specifically because she doesn't like the guy. Whether or not she has an actual case, most people would say no. But in this process, we've been talking a lot about how the fraud charges brought up against the former president so this is not a criminal case. I at least the way I understand it, it's not a criminal case. It's a civil case brought by the Attorney General of New York, stating that Donald Trump overestimated the values of his properties. Now, I've said this multiple times when we've been talking about this. That's what you do. When you have assets, you overvalue the assets. And guess what? It's not up to you. It is up to the bank to either trust you with the valuation of those assets or not trust you with the valuation of those assets. So despite nobody in the agreement, the bank, the Trump organization, anybody involved, being aggrieved, New York State is pressing charges or is suing Donald Trump with basically a victimless crime. Even that's not even the right term, because it's at this point it's not a crime. It's just they claim that he overvalued the properties. Now, there's been a lot of twists and turns to this. One of the judges, the arbitrators, said that he overvalued Mar-a-Lago, which is a beachfront club that I think sits on over an acre. I've been there. I'm going next week. Holy cow. This time next week, I will be at Mar-a-Lago. They said it was valued at $18 million. When I read that story, I turned to my wife and says, if we can buy Mar-a-Lago for $18 million, we're doing it. Do we have $18 million? No. But I will take it to any bank on planet Earth and say, hey, for some reason, this $100 million property is going for $18 million, and any bank in the world would write me a loan. Anyways, the news that's breaking now out of this case with Donald Trump versus the state of New York, or the Attorney General of New York, is this. Deutsche Bank executive David Williams testified in the Trump NY civil lawsuit when he worked on Trump's loans. So this guy worked for the bank that supposedly, according to Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, was defrauded. You know, how could the evil Donald Trump do this to such a poor financial institution? He defrauded them, and he needs to face a penalty for doing so. Here's the problem. The guy that did the loans for the bank testified yesterday and said he, Trump, had one of the strongest balance sheets we've ever seen, and totally unlike any other of our major developer clients. He, Mr. Trump, reported, I'm quoting again, reported both a net worth and investable assets as well as an excess of our minimum requirements. In other words, he said, yeah, this is a good loan. We don't worry, New York Attorney General. We checked into it, and yeah, it all checks out. He has enough money to be able to do this. But of course, that's not good enough for the New York Attorney General. The fact that everybody involved was happy at the end of the deal, he still must have done something wrong. The guy goes on, when questioned, was an event of default ever declared by Deutsche Bank on any of the loans of the Trump organization? Williams answered, no. There was here we go. New York Attorney General claims that Trump overstated his net worth by 50% to obtain loans by Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank testified. This is okay. So New York, the Attorney General is in this civil case is saying, well, he doubled the value of his assets in order to get those loans, basically insinuating that had he not done so, the bank wouldn't have given him the loans. Which, again, it's up to the financial institution to check whether or not the person that they're loaning money to has the ability to cover those loans. So not only does Deutsche Bank say that that didn't happen, the bank testified that it cut Trump's estimated net worth by 50% when approving the loans, which it's noted here that were very profitable for the bank. In other words, not only does the idea that he doubled his net worth in order to sneak past the bank's due diligence department, the bank themselves took what he said, cut that in half, and we're like, yeah, the numbers still work here. So this is good for everybody. So here's your money, Mr. Trump. And again, everyone was happy, except for Letitia James, the candidate who ran specifically on getting Trump. But this is not, again, remember, this is a legitimate grievance, this civil lawsuit. It's not at all political in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing in this that says, well, this is political. Just because she hates the guy and said out loud that she hates the guy and ran on getting the guy, and then when she couldn't find anything to get the guy on, makes up this fraud case that has to be tried in a civil court because it's not criminal. When all of that is said and done, now the bank that was involved in the fraud case was like, yeah, no, we were happy. Testified right there. Yeah, no, we did our due diligence. Don't worry. We did our homework. He had a great balance sheet. Everything was perfect. And we made a lot of money. Everyone's happy. When all of those things are said and done, still, it's not, trust me, it's not a political case. I laugh, but again, it's horrifying that you have elected officials in the United States of America that are willing to go after political enemies for the sake of bolstering their own political side. I would imagine Letitia James will be running for governor at some point of the state of New York, and if she wins that, I guarantee you she's running for president. If she doesn't get embarrassed and laughed out of her job after this is all said and done. But that's that. That's the update there. Banks testified. They're like, yeah, this is fine. That whole case should crumble. And if for some reason the judge, which is a single judge arbitrator, I believe, who also hates Trump and has said so, and has actually, no, I lied. It's not a single judge arbitrator. There's a jury, but then the judge, if you remember this from a video we played a while ago, said if the jury doesn't make the correct decision, I'll override them. Said that. He said that in a public setting, 2 cameras. But it's not political. It's not. This is a justifiable case. It's not political. And if you say it's political, then you are racist, I guess. I don't know. But speaking of people making political waves, Elon Musk is no stranger
There's
to
a public
the quote-unquote controversy. Elon Musk is no stranger to the controversy surrounding the online hate mob and big corporations bending the knee to the woke mob. Elon was on this, what is this, Deal Book Summit put on by the New York Times. Interestingly enough, Kamala Harris was also in that same exact seat yesterday. So it's interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know I don't know anything about this event, but it got a lot of clips for us for the show today. Elon was being asked, hey, are you trying to make amends with the advertisers that are pulling their money from your platform, which is Twitter/X, which I think we're streaming on now? Are you on an apology tour trying to, again, mend the relationship between you and your advertisers? Because if your advertisers pull out, the question was posed, you're screwed. You're screwed, Mr. Elon. Elon's answer was an answer that possibly only the richest guy in the world could give. I want you to watch this when Elon is being questioned about being threatened by advertisers. Check it out.
Obviously, you know that there's a public perception that, and you're clarifying this now, but there's a public perception that that was part of a apology tour, if you will. That this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself.
But
go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Again, I don't know if you could get away with saying that if you're not the richest man in the world, but he is, so he can. Elon being asked the question, yeah, what are you trying to make amends with your advertisers? And he said, look, if advertisers are going to try and blackmail me with money and advertising dollars, go F themselves. And then specifically, he says, I don't know if Bob's in the audience and waves. He's talking about Bob Iger, the CEO and chairman of Disney, who has pulled their advertising from X/Twitter over some made up thing. I think a lot of the people, I'm not following Elon Musk close enough to know specifically what he said, but I guarantee you, there are still people on that platform. And if there are people on that platform, then there are eyeballs that advertisers want to get in front of. And if there are eyeballs that advertisers want to get in front of, but don't, they're then making a political statement in a way of deciding not to advertise on that platform. Now, a lot of people that were playing this clip were just kind of playing that part, which is fine. It's interesting. It's cool to see a billionaire telling advertisers to pound sand. And he has the ability to do it because of his other ventures, which we'll talk about in just a second briefly. But I wanted to play this as the conversation continues and the guy questions him like, hey, isn't this going to kill the company? I want you to watch what Elon says, because I think it provides a basis in understanding how Elon looks at free speech and protecting it, and the value that he places on platforms that allow all kinds of speech, whether or not reprehensible or just common things that people would like to talk about, how much importance he places on the ability of people to be able to express themselves freely. Watch this. Fascinating.
how do you think then about the economics of X? If part of the underlying model, at least today, and maybe it needs to shift, maybe the answer is it needs to shift away from advertising. if you believe that this is the one part of your business where you will be beholden to those who have this view, what do you do?
GFY.
I understand that, but there's a reality too, right?
Yes. No.
I mean, Linda
no,
Yaccarino's right here, and she's got to sell advertising.
Absolutely. So, totally. No. Actually, what this advertising boycott is going to do, it's going to kill the company.
And do you think that
and the whole world will know that those advertisers killed the company, and we will document it in great detail.
But those advertisers, I imagine, are going to say, we didn't kill the company.
Oh yeah.
They're going to say,
tell it to Earth.
But they're going to say, Elon, that you killed the company because you said these things, and that they were inappropriate things, and that they didn't feel comfortable on the platform, right? That's what they're going to say.
And let's see how Earth responds to that.
This
Interesting. See, again, that to me gives so much of a look into how much importance he places on, one, the ability for free speech to exist on a platform, but two, the importance of the opinion of the populace. Not the voting populace by means, but just Earth in general. He says, tell that to Earth. Earth will figure that out. And honest to God, it is fascinating how in touch or in tune a guy with his amount of money is to the average person. Like, it's unbelievable. I've been around some decently powerful people, and I don't disagree with them. I'm not knocking them, but there is a sense of, all right, when's the last time you pumped your own gas? Or when's the last time you've paid an electric bill? When's the last time you've been engaged in some sort of social argument with your neighbor or somebody who goes to your church or something like that? A lot of times people that rich, that popular, are so disconnected with the everyday average person that, sometimes it's difficult to find somewhat of a common ground. Elon, on the other hand, is the richest man in the world, has billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, but somehow still manages to have an understanding of the average person better than even the guys from the New York Times or the people, the big wig advertisers that are pulling money from his platform. It's fascinating because what I'm saying ultimately is I think he's right. And fortunately for him, he doesn't care from a business standpoint. He's like, yeah, it'll kill the business. The advertisers leaving will kill the business. And then all of the world will know that these major corporations that bailed on their funding for no other reason because they didn't like me from a political standpoint, all of the world will know that they did that. The one bastion of hope for freedom of speech online was taken away because these businesses had a political gripe. And what else do they want to do? Do they want to just control everything that you do all the time? What I'm saying is, I think the average person will, if it were to come to that, they will attribute that. And I think there will be a societal shift because of it. Now, from a business standpoint, it was really interesting how cavalier and nonchalant he was. Like, oh yeah, it'll kill the business. That'll suck, but is what it is. The reason for that is because Elon Musk, I don't know if you know this, has multiple businesses. Twitter, the $44 billion purchase of the social media site was like a hobby. It was like a side project hobby for him. If you don't know this, you will eventually. But obviously he has Tesla. People drive Teslas all over the place. I think they started shipping their Cybertrucks, so they're going to see those out on the road, and that's a big marketing thing for Tesla as a whole. He also owns a company called SpaceX. If you don't know what SpaceX is, renewable rockets. Elon Musk looked at NASA and was like, hey, so since you guys are building one-time use rockets, you're wasting a ton of money. I'm just going to make a rocket that can land. And so he did. And as a part of SpaceX, he has this thing called Starlink. Now, if you don't know what Starlink is, they are low Earth orbiting satellites that are launched by SpaceX rockets that deliver internet to literally anywhere on planet Earth. Starlink, revenue-wise, I think is doing about $3 or $4 billion a year, which is more than what its parent company SpaceX is doing. Ultimately, when there becomes more, I don't want to say reliance on, but the old satellite systems that power your phones right here are not a multitude of interconnected low Earth orbit satellites. They are big Mondo satellites that have like a 15 to 20 year shelf life. And when they go down, they are very big and very expensive to repair. What I'm saying is that over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, Starlink, the company that Elon also owns, that is already doing a couple $1 billion a year, is going to be massive. So all of that is to say that the cavalier attitude that he has to, yeah, it'll probably crash the company, is probably justified considering how much money and how much power even he has on the world stage with several of his other endeavors. Anyways, fascinating dude. Fascinating dude. I want to move on to this. Jeez, holy cow, we have so much freaking stuff to get to. I want to move on to this. Kamala Harris sitting in the same chair that Elon Musk was sitting. I wonder if she desanitized it. Desanitized? No, what? Sanitized it. Disinfected. Desanitized. Does anybody ever desanitize? I guess you desanitize something anytime you do anything to it. I desanitized the toilet bowl this morning. I'm sorry. Anyways, back to Kamala Harris, who sat in the same chair as Elon Musk at this deal book summit put on by the New York Times, it looks like. Got hit with some interesting questions. Now, I can't play the entirety of her thing, but that honestly could be an entire video content piece in and of itself, just reacting to Kamala Harris's entire interview at this thing. But I wanted to play this because this matters and this is important. With Joe Biden's poll numbers falling drastically, I know the vice president has to back the president, but there's also a sense of, well, I'm next in line, and I want to make sure that people know I'm next in line type of attitude that Kamala Harris has. And I say that because I've been saying for a year and a half now that Joe Biden is not running in 2024. But apparently, I think less and less people are believing that, even though a lot of Democrats think that he shouldn't run. We played the clip from Morning Joe earlier this week of him and Mika Brzezinski saying, yeah, Joe Biden is old, and that means experience and wisdom, which is polar opposite of what they were saying 4, 5, 6 months ago. And maybe that's the case. That's the realization of, holy cow, we're too far into this to launch somebody else. I don't know. I still don't think Joe Biden is running for president or will be on the ballot in November of next year, in a year from now. But maybe a lot of people in the DNC, including Kamala Harris, are starting to think, well, it's too late now to replace him, so we're going to have to just do it. Anyways, all that being said, the question was brought up with Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, more fervently than I would have thought, defended the president. Watch this, and we will discuss.
First of all, I would say that age is more than a chronological fact. I spent a whole lot of time with our president, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room and in other places. And I can tell you, as I just mentioned, not only is he absolutely authoritative in rooms around the globe, but in the Oval Office, meeting with members of Congress, meeting with leaders in industry, meeting with community leaders, I will tell you that he is in front of, often, everyone in the room in terms of thinking about how we can resolve issues.
Yeah. Interesting. More fervently defending Joe Biden than I think I would have expected from Kamala at this point in time. But then to say, well, he's leading the charge. She also said he's very authoritative, which, is pretty fascist to me. We'll get to being fascist a little bit later. Some people wrote in chalk, this organization is fascist, and leads me to believe that they do not understand what the word fascist means. But anyways, Kamala Harris, more defensive of Joe Biden than I think she probably should be at this point, but saying things that everybody knows isn't true. And this is where I think that disconnect between the people that are removed from society in a lot of ways, not necessarily in a bad way, but like just Kamala Harris, you can't access Kamala Harris. That's just not a thing that you get to do as a normal everyday person. But this is where that disconnect that Elon doesn't have from the population and those elite type people. Kamala Harris sitting there like, oh yeah, no, Joe Biden is he's just the best. Everybody can see it. He is the forward-thinking individual at the front of the room in terms of making decisions and solving problems. You can't gaslight the entire world, sweetheart. You just can't. It's not. This is fascinating juxtaposed to what Elon was saying. Just look, let Earth decide whether or not this was a good move. Whereas Kamala Harris is saying, no, I'm going to tell Earth what is happening, and they're going to believe it. I don't think so. It's a fascinating dynamic, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to watch as Kamala Harris tries to navigate that conversation. Then she got hit with a really interesting question that I don't think anybody's asked her before. And I'll give her some credit. She did use some big words and have a couple ideas in here that didn't get lost in her own head. And she was actually able to formulate, albeit a little bit probably too heady for even me, but a lot of people. Listen to this question. This was fascinating. The interviewer basically asked, I'll let him ask it. Watch this.
I think there's a lot of people would say she can't say anything else. She couldn't tell if there was a problem.
I'm not lying.
If there was,
I'm telling you a fact.
But if there ever is a problem,
yeah.
Do you think that you could go tell the American public? Do you think in your role that you're in a position to do that?
Of course, if necessary, but there's no need for that. There is a political argument that is being made that is not based on substance. And you're asking me to hypothesize around what are my duties to the American people as Vice President of the United States that are based on ethics and morals and the law. I will always follow those rules. But I am suggesting to you that it is important we not be seduced into one of the only arguments that side of the aisle has right now on this issue in a way that is intended to distract from the accomplishments.
So interesting. Again, I'll give her credit. She made sense there. That made sense. She's like, I'm not going to hypothesize on something that isn't an issue. Now, where she's wrong, obviously, is there's a big issue there. Joe Biden's poll numbers are, especially under independents, I think there was a Gallup poll out yesterday. Joe Biden's poll numbers with independents are in the 20s, which is horrible. You have to win over independents if you're going to win the presidency. And the independent vote is increasingly increasing every single day. with more and more people leaving the kind of binary two-party system. But she didn't fumble over her words, as I'm seeing some comments. Harvey in the comments section. We're streaming this thing a little bit differently, so I can't bring the comments on the stream, or on the screen, so I'll read them. Harvey said, "Did she say seduce? Come on, man!" And then Jody giving what Kamala usually sounds like, saying, "I'm next in line because the line I'm in is the line I use when I'm next in line." It's very funny. And then this, we don't tolerate these types of comments in this comment section, Bob. I don't condone what you're saying. Comments like this are just not allowed. Kamala Harris, says a commenter, Kamala Harris did her best work under Willie Brown. I will not have such debaucherous commentary in my comment section. I will not allow it. I will not repeat it. Again, the comment that I will not say that I think is totally out of line is Kamala Harris did her best work under Willie Brown. If you're from California, you probably know what that means. But the idea that the idea that she's standing on, that Joe Biden is like fit for office and like ready to go. Back to the Elon thing. I don't think you're in a winning position there. Last thing from Kamala Harris, and we'll move on. Geez, because we're over time, but I'm just experimenting with just continuing to go over time. Kamala Harris, election denier. I want you to listen to this clip from Kamala Harris yesterday in that same setting, and we'll discuss whether or not, if you or I said this sort of thing in 2020, what we would be called, what we've been called. Check this out.
Russia interfered in the 2016 election, targeting specific groups of Americans with dis and misinformation, with an intention to undermine the American people's confidence in our institutions.
Oh, cuts off there. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say about this. Maybe this is charitable. Maybe it isn't. She's correct. Russia did interfere in the 2016, or at least attempt to interfere in the 2016 election. And also the 2012 election. Probably in the midterms in 2014. Definitely in the midterms in 2018. In the election in 2020. Midterms in 2022. Will try to interfere in the elections in 2024. What I'm saying is, what you're saying is true because that's what adversaries do. I don't like it. I don't condone it. I think we should do everything we can to stop it. But at the same time, in order to not recognize that, you would have to be a naive person. Yes, our adversaries try covertly sometimes, or even more outwardly other times, to interfere in our elections. Or just interfere in American society as a whole. That is a thing that happens and a thing that they do. But what are you saying when you single out 2016? Are you saying something specifically? Because what you're saying is correct, but also it happens in every single election. If you're going to single out 2016 and make it a case there, are you then trying to say that the 2016 election in some way, shape, or form wasn't legitimate? If you're only using that argument for one election, are you then questioning the validity of that election? And then, on top of that, who was in office in 2016? Who was the administrative executive branch that would have been in charge of or tasked with stopping whatever Russian disinformation they were putting out? Again, the culmination of this is, yes, adversaries to our country do what they can to influence us in a way that benefits them. That should go without saying. Again, I don't like it. I don't want it to happen. I think we should do everything humanly possible to stop it. But the bottom line is it happens, especially with the internet. Geez, you're probably talking back to 2008. 2008, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. And then it's going to happen in 2024. It's going to happen in 2026. Going to happen in 2028. It's just a reality of how adversaries act against the people that they don't like. But if that's the case, if you're going to single out one election, you then also you have to be having an underlying cause as to why you're doing so. And I would say that her underlying cause is to say, well, 2016, Russia interfered. We know that to be the case. What are you saying? Are you saying the 2016 election was not legitimate? And if you're saying that, are you then assuming the role of so many that you accuse of being in today's day and age, in 2020? In other words, are you, Kamala Harris, the election denier that you accuse so many others of being? Or does it just depend on which election? I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know I've said this a million times, but I believe it to be 100% true. The most important thing regarding our elections is to make sure that everyone believes them. Security around American elections need to be airtight because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter from a policy standpoint, from a 5, 10, 15 years down the road standpoint, where we go as a policy direction. That does matter. But what matters more is that people believe the election. If a Democrat wins, if a Republican wins, if an independent wins, if a Green Party person wins, yes, policy is going to change. Yes, the direction of the country is going to change. But if nobody believes the election, the country goes away. We effectively lose the country when we lose faith in the election. That's just the way it works. And so when you ask, why are you such a big proponent of voter ID and voter registration and making sure only citizens who are allowed to vote get to vote? Well, the reason being is because if nobody believes the election, that is far, far worse than the worst person you think getting elected. This is gonna throw some people for a loop. In terms of keeping the country together as a cohesive unit, I would rather have Hillary Clinton win the presidency knowing that it was airtight. Not a single person who wasn't allowed to vote voted. Than have somebody I like, well, I don't even know if I want to say that. The bottom line here, I guess, was with this example is that no, it's not that I want Hillary Clinton to be the president. It's that I want, in order for America to keep existing as a country and as a nation, people need to believe elections. And if they don't, we lose the country. So there's that. First comment up that I see. Mike says, Jobob, you're over your Kamala threshold. You know, I agree. Thank you, Mike, for holding me to that hard standard of too much Kamala. But also, I don't know if that was necessarily about Kamala. I think that screed was mostly about elections. So I claim amnesty for my Kamala limit that has been exceeded to the extent that which I do have a Kamala limit. I want to get to this last because I think this is interesting and kind of in that same vein of being able to withstand the slings and arrows that are thrown at democracy, such as the United States. This was the Rockefeller tree lighting. It was actually interesting. My wife was showing me pictures from her time hop thing on her phone that showed we were there 5 years ago, we were in Rockefeller Plaza. I think that's what it's called. Watching the tree get lit, the tree lighting ceremony. And it was actually super cool to see once. Once you do it, you will not need to go back. The people that go every single year, I don't know who you people are, but the amount of cold crowds and chaos that you have to deal with to watch lights get turned on is a lot. It's a lot. So I'm glad we did it. I'm happy we did it. It was an interesting experience. And I would never do it again. But that's not the story here. The story here is that during the Rockefeller Christmas lighting tree ceremony, there's a mob, a bunch of angry rioters. What else is new? Chanting, tear it down, stop the system, whatever. We are looking at Western civilization crumbling if we do not defend it fervently. Watch this, and we'll discuss. Interesting. I think I mentioned earlier we were going to talk about fascism. We won't dive super deep in there, but what a bunch of people with Palestinian flags screaming "shut it down" at the Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and then the camera pans to Fox News is fascist propaganda. Interesting, because then again, what then do they think of MSNBC or CNN? Because the one difference that I think I see with Fox News with other, obviously they have a standpoint, obviously they have a point of view that they stick to a lot of the time. But one thing that I see on Fox News that you don't see on any of the other cable news channels are panelists that disagree with each other. Watch this. If you turn on Fox, I don't know. Watch Brett Baer's show specifically. But also you can check out heck, Fox News tonight. Is it tonight? Yeah, tonight is having a Gavin Newsom versus Ron DeSantis debate. In other words, people that don't agree with each other at all. I don't know if you know this about Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom on Hannity's show. But Fox News, when they have a panel, they have people that actually disagree with each other. If you watch a CNN show, go watch CNN or go MSNBC specifically. Watch when they have a panel discussing something. They'll go from panelist to panelist going, yes, I agree with this point, to, yes, I agree with you that you agree with this point, to, yes, I agree with both of you that both of us agree on this point, to the third person, I agree with all three of us. We all agree on this point. It's a panel full of people that agree with each other. And then on Fox News, again, of course they have a perspective, but they have panelists that disagree with each other all the time. And to get back to the main point, to call them then fascists would make me think that you have not a good understanding of what that means. But anyways, here's some more footage from that riot. And I don't know, let me know what you think. I personally think that if you see stuff like this, if you have the manpower on the police side, which I think they should just have that manpower. If you see people doing this to cops, to barriers, to the public, you should start pulling people over the fence and arresting them. That's my take. I'm sticking to it. Watch this. Sorry. Now it's coming. Yeah, what a weird lady. This lady who started throwing one of these at the cops and then says, "Don't put your hands on me. What's your name? I'm suing you." And then he kind of like just walks away. And she just like, just kind of, that's also that's the fascinating thing about this. Well, okay, before that, I think you got to be able to arrest all these people. If you're breaking down barriers and fighting with the police, you don't get to do that. And people will be like, "Are you trying to make examples of people?" Yeah, we should. Hey, if you're going to fight the cops and you get arrested, maybe somebody else that would fight the cops would go, well, my friend fought the cops and now he's in jail for 6 months. Should I fight the cops? No. As opposed to, hey, yeah, we were punching cops last night and it was totally fine. You want to come out and join us? Yeah, that sounds like fun. If there's no consequences for any of this, why would people stop? And then you have this lady who was doing that, screaming. It's funny because, so I'll keep this short. Jeez. Should we just, I'll keep this short, but when I go speak at campuses with either Charlie Kirk or Candace Owens, there's protesters outside all the time. And what's funny to me, they have a right to protest. I think they're dumb. We go talk to them sometimes. A lot of them can't defend the arguments that they have. They've got these dumb signs that use words that they don't even know what it means. And it's all crazy. But what I think is the most interesting part of this, and it's obvious, but it's interesting when you see it, is that afterward, everybody just goes home. We have our attendees that want to hear speakers speak, and they walk in orderly. They mostly ignore the protesters. We're better than that. Not to put ourselves on a pedestal here, but a lot of the people that come to these types of events to see the speakers either are willing to participate in dialect that they don't agree with, which is great. We love those people coming to the events, and they do it respectfully. Or they've got people that already, agree with what either Charlie or Candace is saying, and they're orderly too. Everybody is orderly. The protesters, on the other hand, get pretty rambunctious, get pretty rowdy, love to yell, love to scream their little heads out. And what I think is the funniest thing that I've seen happen, that again is obvious, but it's fascinating when you see it, is after they get done being all worked up and yelling, they go home. We're at UCLA, and there was this lady who I saw just screaming, so upset. And then 15 minutes later, I had to get something out of my car. I saw her in the parking lot, getting into her very expensive BMW, by the way. I think that's a factor that should be explored at some point. But just getting into her car, like, okay, well, I'm done now. To go from, I hate these fascist pigs, to, all right, you guys want to grab In-N-Out later? I don't like. To re-assimilate back into normal life after you've just screamed your head off. It's necessary and it's obvious that it happens. I understand that. But it's a fascinating thing to watch if after the event, or even like in the middle, because usually people get screamy when the protesters get screamy when people are walking in. And then after everybody's inside, they have nobody to yell at, so then they usually go home. I'm usually off stage by that point, and either Charlie or Candace is giving their talk. And that's, that's how those things usually work. Then the protesters are kind of like milling around like, I don't know what to do. And sometimes I'll go out there and say like, hey, do you guys want to come in? We'll give you a microphone. You've got a megaphone now. I guarantee you our microphone inside is louder than your megaphone. And a lot of them won't because they don't like to or want to defend their ideas. But then after that, they kind of just are like, I don't know what you guys want to go to the Panda Express. Look, it's obvious. Of course, they have to reintegrate back into society after screaming their heads off for, I don't know, however many minutes. But I don't know. It's just interesting. It's interesting to watch. Like this lady here who was throwing her fists at the cops, yelling. Let's watch that. Look at that. He's pushing her away. Oh, it's bad. There we go. What a dum-dum. But that lady has to go back to her apartment. She's probably riding the subway, looking at her phone, scrolling through TikTok. Because you have to. You have to reassimilate back into society, and is what it is. So, anyways, that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Went exponentially longer than I think we normally do, which I guess isn't a problem necessarily. Oh wow, all the comments just showed up on the screen. I don't know why or how that happened. But also, there's a bunch of people on YouTube. I got a message last night from Jim, frequent correspondent and also listener, saying, hey, why aren't you streaming on YouTube anymore? And I'm like, you know what? We're doing it tomorrow. So that's what we're doing. We're back on YouTube as a stream as opposed to just uploading videos, which we've been doing. I don't know. We're trying a bunch of different things. We're trying to reinvent, not the wheel, the show. One of these days we'll get into the big studio. That's the old studio that we were using for a very long time, and I'm excited for you guys to see that. It's coming together, and the new kind of format is taking form. So really excited for y'all to see that. So appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB, be able to find me pretty much anywhere on the internet. That being said, we will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. I think I'm on a podcast later, but I'm not sure if that's live at like 1 Pacific time. Going to be interesting and fun, but I also don't. I'll share the link in social media stuff if you want to watch that there. But we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.